Have you ever wondered how to fearlessly pitch to dream clients? Well, you're in luck today because I'm excited to welcome Fiorella Granda on today's episode of Able Heads, the podcast where we dive into the minds of creatives who are building bold, impactful work on their own terms. Fiorella is a designer, illustrator, and content creator based out of Toronto, Canada, originally from Lima, Peru. She's worked with clients such as WNBA, NBA, Uniqlo, Adobe, Intel, Microsoft. The list is way too long. But I'm so excited to learn more from her journey and learn how she started fearlessly pitching herself to clients using social media. Isn't that great? I'm excited to welcome her, so let's go on and do that and dive into the conversation. Was there a moment where it just kind of clicked for you that sports and creativity go hand in hand?
Yeah, so this kind of stems from my own experiences. I was an athlete my whole life. I played basketball my whole life. I went on to study architecture at the University of Toronto, and in every single one of my projects, I was always like trying to design a sports stadium or like a basketball court. It was always something sport related. Like I even did my senior thesis on how sports can benefit marginalized communities. And I was just always trying to blend the two. And then when I graduated, oh, sorry, before I graduated, like I played basketball at my university as well. So I always had those two things. And when I graduated and I was just a normal, just like working employee without basketball, I felt so like lost. So then I started channeling that energy into art to feel like myself again and started posting more on social media, and then it steadily grew. And when I started getting projects with like the WNBA and ASICs, and I was like, okay, this is what I meant to do. So I quit and here we are.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I was doing a little research and I found out that you actually studied architecture. So
Yeah.
how did that kind of shift into illustration and design and content creation and just everything?
Well, the good thing about architecture is that it's very multidisciplinary and there's always like graphic design, illustration in everything that you do. So all the skills that I have now, I actually learned in architecture school. So it made me super well-rounded and like like I was mentioning when I was working full time, I just kind of started drawing on the side because we learned all of Adobe Suite and that's how it translated over. But I guess all of my technical skills are down the drain now.
I'm also an engineer by training, which is like, where are these analytical skills and how are these helping me today? And I guess they help you
Right.
making the design decisions that you're making.
Yeah, but I also don't need to know how to like how many columns I need to put in a building
Yeah,
anymore and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah,
helpful to know at the time. I was like, wow,
yeah,
this is so cool.
yeah. No, what if you're creating like a wrap project for ASICs or Nike in the future?
Very true. Yeah.
So how is it like? I know you grew up in Peru and now you live in Toronto. How do these places and culture influence your design perspective today?
Well, that's a great question. So I think I'm sure you can relate to this too, but I feel like everybody's style is formed based off of their experiences. So I moved to Canada when I was pretty young. I was like 8 years old, and I moved with my family. So my experience was totally different. And I never felt like I belonged to one place. When I went back to Peru, I was like, no, you're Canadian. And when I came back here, I'm like, no, you're Peruvian. So I was always like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't belong anywhere. And then I kind of started just channeling those experiences into my art. Like, I think being a creative, being involved in sports, and being Peruvian and Latina just has shaped me into the designer that I am today because, like, the music, the culture, the family life is so important to me. And it's so important for me to channel that into my creativity. And it's also like important for me to connect with other Latinx creatives, not in just the Toronto community, but around the world. Like even when I was at Adobe Max and I met other Latinx creatives who were like-minded and like shared the same familiar experiences, it made me feel so seen and validated. And I just think, well, not just Latinx creativity, but I think it deserves more exposure. Yeah, so I think that's how I've channeled my creativity in that.
I feel like you can create that community around you when you find like-minded people, like you said.
For sure.
And I think that's what's important. Yeah. And I've had the pleasure to meet creatives like you in person. And
Yeah.
it's kind of led to those relationships where you can't find that online. Which
Uh-huh.
I have so many online creative friends that I've never met in real life, but I still chat with them. So yeah, the creative community is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're also both in the GTA. So, and I know
Yeah.
you're You're far away, but we should definitely meet up more in
Yeah,
person.
yeah, we should do more coffee chats, talking
Yeah,
about talking about dream clients.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and back to your point about connecting with creatives and like-minded people, like I'm sure you can relate to this too, but just feeling seen and validated has been so important to me, especially because like I grew up in Oakville, which is a predominantly white city, and not like being able to interact with other Latinos as well not like affected me, but like in my adult life, I was like, whoa, where was this? Like I was missing this. You know what I mean? It's nostalgic
Yeah.
and makes me feel seen. Yeah.
So, what was kind of the push to your freelancing full time? Like, I know we touched on this a little earlier, but was it like a gradual move or more of like a leap of faith?
Yeah. So I thought I was going to be an architect and was planning to get my master's and become licensed, work at a firm, climb the corporate ladder, all that fun stuff. Yeah. But as soon as when I started working full time in architecture, because I was doing internships and stuff as like the design student and not doing like very important tasks. But the minute I actually had like responsibility and like was doing very technical work, it was just way more technical than I thought it would be. And it was like 90% technical and 10% design. And I really missed that creative and design work, which is why I started like drawing and posting online to have that creative outlet outside of work. And when I realized that, oh, I can make this like profitable and who knows, maybe this could be something one day. And it kind of took me like 2 years to actually realize that that was what I wanted to do. When the idea popped into my head, I'm like, no, I could never do that. Like, I'll just go find a graphic designer role at an agency or something before I even try this. But then I was actually I went to an Adobe event in New York actually, and I met again so many other like-minded creatives. And I know it's like really cringy to say that when you go to New York and you have this like canon moment, but it really did happen to me. I was like, wow, all these other like incredible people freelance and it gave me so much confidence that I could do that as well. Luckily, while I was growing my business, I was also working full time. So I just kind of came up with a budget plan. And when I had enough money saved up, I just kind of took the leap of faith. And my manager was so nice. And she was like, if this fails and you want to come back, you can always come back, which gave
Yeah.
me so much security. So I was like, why not? Why not go all in, you know?
I think most people and most next gen creatives always ask me this question where they're like, how do I even start doing freelance work? And I think the one great thing that you just said is also like have a backup plan. Even if you
Yeah.
don't consider it like a backup, but still have something in the back of your head and budget it out and plan it. So you know
Yeah.
where you're at with your obviously money is a thing in 2025. And
100%.
yeah, yeah, think about your expenses, think about the limit that you want to push. And while you're doing that, don't also box yourself in the type of clients that you're
Mhm.
working with. Which brings me to my big question. What are the type of clients you work with? And do you remember the first ever big, bold pitch that you sent out?
Yeah, so right now I just did a project with ASIC, so that was super fun and meaningful. I'm currently working with another sports client right now, which I'll reveal very, very soon, and I'm excited about. And I've recently started working with a couple of beauty brands because I've realized that a lot of beauty brands want to infiltrate not just the women's basketball space, but the women's sports space in general. So it's been very cool seeing that intersection come to fruition and them reach out to me. The first kind of pitch that I landed, this actually wasn't a pitch. I applied to a competition to design a basketball court for the WNBA and I submitted a proposal and I won. And that was like I said, one of my biggest moments into like, okay, this could be a thing. And like, I've never felt more like myself in that project. And ever since then, I was just kind of kept chasing that high of like, I need to be with clients like this because they make me feel seen as a creative. And I think that was like summer 2023. And I started freelancing summer 2024. So it was a full year. And then I got something with ASICS, and then I got something with PWHL, and then the NFL. And then it started growing more into this niche. And I kind of started becoming known for like sports. And I'm glad that I'm being known for that. So I'm just trying to keep growing that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know social media has been a huge part of your journey as well. So, do you think there's like a secret formula for making that pitch that kind of stands out there?
I actually really struggle with social media, especially lately, because I haven't really seen much growth in the last couple of months. But all of my clients have come through social media, even in the videos that I thought didn't do very well. Like I have a video with I think like 6 or 8 thousand views, which like isn't like a lot, quote unquote, compared to my other ones that did really well. But I actually landed a project with a brand that I pitched to on social media. So I think just even if you think it's like not quote unquote good, brands love community engagement. If you're making commotion on social media about a brand's community, it grows their fan base. And by them investing in you, grows the community exponentially as well. So I think posting on social media and also LinkedIn has been very powerful for me as well. I like reach out to specific people on LinkedIn at the brand. I posted a video about this actually, but I would reach out to their creative director, their community manager is big, their event manager, their social media manager has also been key for me as well. And also see what agencies are representing said brand and see how I can infiltrate through there.
Yeah, I love hearing how people kind of do the cold approach to brands because everyone's approach is so different. Some people still do cold emails. Or here in Toronto, we have the Toronto Design Directory, which I know
Mhm.
some people advertise on. And being part of RGD and all of those other creative outlets, but using LinkedIn to your advantage is actually pretty good. Yeah. So when you're actually reaching out to people on LinkedIn or Instagram, wherever, do you lean more on your body of work or do you tailor your pitch to the client you're looking forward to working with?
I think being as personalized as possible has helped me because, like you
Mm,
mentioned, you could reach out via cold email. But I think if you're wildly different and you show brands what you can do for them and serve it to them on a silver platter and like reach out to their creative director and be like, hey, I actually just did this for your brand. Here's the video. Here's the illustration. Attach, attach, attach. They can forward that onto their bosses and their superiors, etc. And I think that's way more impactful in a way because I just think cold emailing definitely does help, but I think action followed through just makes it that much better.
yeah. What do you say to people who think they're not ready to pitch to people or it's not perfect? My design's not perfect, so I won't update it, or my design's not perfect, so I'm not ready to pitch to a client.
I mean I've definitely felt the same way, but even though it wasn't perfect, I still posted it and got opportunities out of it. You really never know who's watching. The worst thing people can say is no, okay? Move to the next.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting that most of the people that I've had conversation with on the podcast, all of them, I think all of them agree to the fact that if you don't put yourself out there, it's already a no. And if you do, there's even a 1% chance of people looking at your work. And I don't know, 3 years later, someone's looking for a keyword that you probably tagged in your video and they come
Exactly.
across your work and you never know. And because everything stays on the internet, it's not as if it's going to go away until you intentionally delete it. But it's like if you're not putting your stuff out there, no one's going to ever know that you even exist. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great mindset.
I actually just got an inquiry from the Adidas pitch I did 2 years ago and being like, "We want something like this. Can you do that for us?" So,
Yeah.
yeah, to your
Yeah.
point, you never know
Yeah.
who's watching.
Wow, that's full circle. So when big brands or even any of the smaller brands in the city reach out to you for something that you've already showcased on a video on social media, how do you kind of price your illustration? Not to get into the nitty-gritty details, but
No,
how do
I
you
love the
kind of work?
nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
How do I work? Okay, that's a great question. What has helped me, honestly, transparently, is having an agent, and he's been able to help me a lot on how to price my work because I did really struggle with that. I didn't know about usage or whitelisting or timelines. Like, I really did not know how to price my work at all, but factoring in factors like your timeline, how your work will be used. Will this just be used on social media? Will this be used on a website? Will this be used on merch? Will this company boost your ads? Will they boost it on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok? Where will they boost this stuff? And what's also important is if they have the rights to own this forever or for a certain period of time. I typically like to stay away from a company owning my stuff forever. I typically just like to put a contract of like, okay, it's yours for 2 years and then it's mine. But definitely factoring out those three things helps. And also for somebody new starting out, I would put those factors into ChatGPT and be like, I'm an entry level designer. This is what my friend is charging. These are the project deliverables. What do you think is a fair quote? And honestly, I've been using that for some smaller projects and it's helped me quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that because I used that the other day where I put in this is the amount of experience I have and this is what I've been charging and this is my hourly rate and
Mm,
this is the amount of hours it's going to take me to work this hour
mm,
and these are the deliverables. So what's like a fair pricing where I make some profit as well.
right.
And yeah, it was surprisingly close even though I did make some changes after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's like you said, I think it's important to not overshoot your shot and compare yourself to other people. So I would
Mhm.
definitely reach out and ask others what they're charging too. I actually did that before like a couple of projects. Like before working with Adobe, I reached out to people that had similar followings as me and asked them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is the amount of research that kind of takes you when you're creating a video? How do you research what you want to showcase in that video? Or what kind of illustration? Do you just go by, here's what I want to create and how this is going to work? Or is it the other way around? You research the brand first and then create an illustration that might work for them.
Yeah, so when I'm creating like storylines for my videos, I actually use ChatGPT a lot when it comes to my social media. I have a prompt that's like, I want to do a pitch for Elf. Okay. I want to do a pitch for Elf Cosmetics. What is a gap in their business? And what is something that my brand can do to help them grow and expand their audience? And then I can build, and then it gives me like certain ideas, and then I can build a storyline from that. And I think if you find a gap or what something's missing in a brand, that can help you grow and help the brand grow and help you land a project like exponentially improves your chances. And before I like make a video, I also ask ChatGPT, can you please make a viral hook with a call to action? What hashtags should I use? And I also even like refer 3 creators or something that have done this really well. And what can I take from them to input into my video? That has really
Yeah,
helped.
yeah. That's the secret formula. I love it.
Yeah.
So, are there any other ways you use ChatGPT or other forms of AI in your work?
Mostly for social media. Other than that, no, not really. I know that the creative community is really sensitive to artificial intelligence, and I don't like to use, I mean, this is my preference. I don't like to use it to generate ideas visually. I like to see what kind of concepts that I can come up with and see if I can execute them myself. I think it's always important to keep exercising that writing muscle. But I mean, I also, this is totally unrelated. I use it for like workout plans and stuff like that. But other than that, and like budgeting, of course.
Yeah.
But other than that, not much. Mostly social media, budgets, quotes, invoices, some captions and stuff like that. LinkedIn posts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I use ChatGPT for all that too. Yeah, it's
Mm.
interesting how you can tell if a caption is made from ChatGPT unless you
I
go
was
and
just gonna say that.
yeah, you can just tell the M dash, the kind of language it uses.
The
I've trained
emojis.
the emojis. I've trained ChatGPT to learn my tone of voice, and I've trained
Yeah.
like a custom GPT for myself. So I
Mhm.
just use that to create captions, and I use it, yeah, pretty heavily, honestly, because posting on social media is like a job in itself. It's like a second job.
Yeah,
How
tell me about it.
yeah, I feel like that's a common feeling amongst creatives who are showing up online.
Mhm.
So, going back to the pitches and how you pitch yourself to clients, has there ever been a pitch that did not work out, but kind of still ended up teaching you something important?
Yeah, like I before the year ended, I tried to do something for the Australian Open, and I think where I missed the ball was A, it was basically already over, so I posted way too late. B, it was the holidays, so not many people were interacting with the video. C, there's no story at all. It was just like me, my design process, but there was no like explaining as to why I did the certain moves that I did. And I also didn't reach out to as many people as I used to, and that's where it went wrong. And I just made this, not that I didn't make it for nothing, but like it was kind of like a wasted pitch I saw from my end. So what I've been doing to make this stronger and like the steps that I go through is I like to ask my audience first and foremost what they would want to see. I've been getting a lot of requests for Hoka, so I'll possibly do them next. But yeah, I just want to see what kind of brands people are wanting to see first. And then I go on LinkedIn and I do my mass connection, literally connect, 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 connect. And like I've been getting those like limit because I don't have LinkedIn Premium and I didn't know that you can only connect with 100 people in 1 week. And then they were
Yeah.
like, no, you've reached your limit. And I'm like, no. Anyway, I'll probably have to get LinkedIn Premium soon. But yeah, I connect with those people. Like I said, I made a video about this so you can check which people I reach out
Mhm.
to there. And then I just start working on my pitch. And as soon as that's posted, I include a call to action in the video. Like, if you think this brand should hire me, tag them below. Tag your favorite Adidas lover or Nike lover, or tag them if you want to see this come to life. And just wait and see what happens and reach out to the people with that video done.
Mm.
80% of the time it like doesn't work because like the brands that I'm trying to target don't respond, but so many other opportunities come to it. Like I think like the Australian Open pitch, for example, how I thought it was really bad. The
Mhm.
PWHL, which is another sports league, reached out
Mhm.
to me the next day. And then the NFL reached out to me the next day. And then when I did something for Adidas, Asics reached out to me and I didn't even do anything for Asics yet.
Yeah.
Just posting and getting and putting yourself out there, like I said, you never know who's watching. And the worst thing people can do is say no. So just go for it.
Should we expect an Australian Open pitch again this year then? Is
Yeah,
that in
I'll
the
have a
works?
do-over. I wanted to do a French Open first because I think it's like starting next week. So I think if I plan ahead now and try to do it before, I want to do that. And also Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely stuff for the WNBA season coming up. I currently am doing something with I have a year contract with the NBA right now, so definitely something for NBA finals and possibly NBA Summer League. And yeah, and whatever brands people want to see.
Yeah, that's cool. So, how, between pitching to clients and social media, how do you find the balance between brand partnerships and being authentic to your community?
Like if a brand reaches out to me and they say do this, 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 and this, and how do I put my own spin on things?
Yes, that, and if this like it's like a paid partnership for your social media content,
Hmm.
how do you keep it authentic? Because I know some people tend to make it very,
Corporate.
yes.
Yeah, I think the worst ads are like extremely corporate and robotic. And what's gonna make people not think it's an ad if it's just starts out as any regular video and find a way to like sneak in that this is a partnership. And I think actually Adobe does a really good job at doing that. Like, come design a book with me in partnership with Adobe or something like that. And it's like a cool video of a book, you have a visual hook, and then you kind of slip it in there. But I think staying authentic to you as possible is what's going to make the ad more successful and is going to keep the company reaching back out to you. Yeah, I think when it's corporate and scripted, it you lose the opportunity of having the client long term and for them to come back to you, especially when it's an agency that reaches out that has a ton of other clients.
Mm,
Yeah, always
yeah,
important to have your own voice.
yeah. Make it relatable, I think, and that
Yeah,
thinking about how your community is gonna view it and not just how you're making it is important in terms of like what does it seem like to your target audience, except not what you're gonna portray. Let's talk about other social media platforms
Hmm.
besides Instagram and LinkedIn. Has there been any other social platforms that have been surprising for you?
Pinterest, surprisingly. I have like my Pinterest linked to my Instagram, so whatever I post on Instagram, it gets posted on Pinterest. And what I've realized is that Pinterest, not many people have a lot of followers, but like the monthly impressions are comparable to the ones that I have on Instagram. So even though not a lot of people, I think I have like 20 followers, but I still have like 300,000 views per month, which is kind of crazy. So Pinterest has definitely surprised me a lot. And while I'm still really small on TikTok, TikTok has also been fun because I think TikTok and Instagram are really different because TikTok is way more casual and more like relatable content and people like get to know you more. So I've been like posting more, I guess, silly things there,
Yeah.
which has also helped me grow a connection with my audience as well.
So you're saying you create different content for based on different types of platforms that you're posting on.
Yeah, it's mostly the same, but I think on TikTok, I think TikTok and Instagram are way different. And
Mhm.
I think you can post more silly and relatable stuff on TikTok for sure.
Yeah, yeah. More trending stuff on
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because TikTok has a lot of trending sounds and stuff.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think if you use it well, you could grow really fast.
Yeah, and I know it started like that, a dance and music app. So, and I think it kind of evolved into everything. And now, just like I still view it as a surprising when I come across someone doing stuff with their hands. And I came across this guy who is an illustrator, but also uses his hands to make cards for people. And then he showcases how to use Cricut to like print and cut stuff. And then he's like doing a live stream making it. And I'm like, that is so surprising that I came
Mm-hmm.
across your page because I'd never come across anything creative
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok. So it's really hard to tap into that audience. With your work, one thing I've seen in common with everything that you've designed is that everything has an intention behind it. And
Hmm.
I think I really admire that.
Thank you.
But how is it that you define that in your work?
Yeah, I think intention is really important. I always try to make people feel seen, heard, and supported with everything that I do. So before I post anything or make anything, I always ask myself, is this unique and is this meaningful? And how am I making this consistent throughout all of my posts? And I think if you set up a set amount of rules for yourself, not even while you're designing, but for your content. I mean, for me, since I'm a visual artist and designer, I have a set of rules that I follow with every single design, the color palette, the texture, the text, etc. And I think if people want to maintain consistency and meaningfulness throughout, I think a set of rules would really help. It's definitely helped me. And I think it's also important, like, that you become known for something, not necessarily to like niche down. I feel like all of us are always hearing niche down, niche down, niche down. But I don't know. I disagree. I think the more of yourself that you share and the more personality you share, it makes your brand more authentic, but as long as you're sticking to the same basic principles that you have in every single one of your content or designs or videos, I think that could make a really successful personal brand.
Yeah, it's niching down, but in different terms. It's niching down with your process, it's niching down with how you approach clients, it's niching down with contracts, it's niching down with pricing, but not necessarily what you're doing and what kind of clients you're approaching. I mean, of course, you prefer some industries more than the others because it's closer to your heart, it's causes that you personally support, but it doesn't mean that you won't work with other clients.
For
Yeah,
sure.
no, I love that. I completely agree, 100%. I think that's the way to go just because you are not closing yourself to opportunities if you're being a generalist as they say, which is often
Yeah.
seen as bad for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah.
Yeah. Like, for example, in my experience, like, I always got told to, like, focus on sports brands. That's what you're good at. And, like, while I do agree in some way, I'm losing opportunities in other industries. And, like, why not prove to other people that I can do everything? You know?
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a little bit about working with some beauty brands. Do we have sneak peeks about that? Can we talk about it?
Mm. I'm working with 2 right now, and I can't say too much, but I recently just did something with Cetaphil, the skincare brand. So that was cool that they reached out to me because Cetaphil also sponsors Canada basketball. And since I'm very involved in the basketball community, it was cool to see how they reached out to me through the involvement in the basketball community, which I thought would have like never happened. And I see
Yeah.
this more and more. Like, I think Fenty is now sponsoring the New York Liberty. Sephora is now sponsoring Toronto Tempo. And we see this big increase of beauty in sports recently. But I think like beauty has always been involved in sports. Like the big rugby player Ilona Maher, do you know who that is?
No idea.
Well, anyway, so she's basically a big rugby player and influencer, and she always wears lipstick before every single one of her games. And then she got a
Wow.
sponsorship with Maybelline. So that's just like the kinds of examples that,
Yeah.
yeah, you just never know who's watching. And it's cool to see that intersection come to life in the sports industry.
Yeah, I guess it kind of reiterates the fact that if you don't put your personal authentic personality out there, no one's going to know it because putting something as like a lip color before a game would be
Mhm,
so unexpected and like surprising. Like, before
mhm.
a rugby game, who does that? But
Yeah,
then someone doing that and then that coming to the front lines is, yeah, yeah,
but, like, even before some of my basketball games at U of T, me and my 6 teammates would huddle around a mirror and be doing
yeah,
our hair, doing our makeup before the game because, like, when you look good, you feel good, and, like, that's just so prominent.
yeah, yeah.
Even before,
No,
like, a big presentation, so why wouldn't you do it before a big game, you know?
that's true. Yeah, that is true. So, is there a project that has been like a turning point in your intentional work?
I would say, the project that really made me go out into this niche was definitely the WNBA project that I had a year ago when I designed the basketball court. Yeah, I was so emotional throughout the entire thing, and I cried like 600 times just because not only of like the art itself, but also the impact because our intention with that court was A, to bring the WNBA to Toronto one day, and B, to grow the basketball community in Toronto. And that community that the court is in, that community loves basketball. There was kids around us every single day helping us paint, shooting around a basketball, wanting to be involved in women's sports programs. And after a year, when we saw the WNBA come to Canada, to be able to play a part of that process was so rewarding and fulfilling. And even just now this weekend where I got to work with ASICS, the race was for this organization called Campfire Circle, which is an organization that raises funds for kids that have cancer or serious illnesses to go to summer camp. And something that is bigger than myself and can help a good cause and grow community has been very, very rewarding and fulfilling.
Yeah, I think the kind of satisfaction you get after completing something like that is like my work is out there in the real world, actually helping a good cause. Yeah,
Right.
that's a completely different feeling.
Yeah, and like I said,
That's,
intentionality is everything, and, like, making people feel seen and making people feel something is what I always strive to do.
I know you mentioned that this was through a design competition. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so for the court, it was a competition with this organization called Buckets and Borders, who go all around the world and basically refurbish basketball courts. They've gone to like Mexico, they've gone to South Africa, they've done courts all over Canada, and it was a partnership with WNBA Buckets and Borders and Milk Up Ontario, like the dairy brand. So it was a competition through them and submitted my proposal. And I was like, if I don't win this, oh my God, like I'm literally gonna die. Like I put my heart and soul into this. So when I got a phone call the next day, it was so funny. It was like what we're doing right now, like how we're on video call and like my boyfriend was sitting next to me and cause he like, I don't know, he wanted to sit in and see how it went. And it
Yeah.
made me nervous that he was there, but he was like so happy for me. And like it for the I just felt so that was the first time where I really felt proud of myself as an illustrator because I had zero confidence. So
Mm,
when I got that project and saw that they liked it and the WNBA liked it and Milk Up Ontario liked it, I was like, okay, this could be something one day and let's just move forward with it. And they do a ton of other artist calls. And what I really love about them and their organization is that they're always looking for ways to spotlight local artists. So if they're doing something in Vancouver, they highlight a local Vancouver artist. Nova Scotia,
mm.
same thing. Mexico, same thing. Engaging your local community, like I said earlier, is everything when growing a brand, especially when you can do something impactful with it.
Yeah, let's talk about how the client process kind of works. So,
Sure.
when you land a big client, what's the first step other than reaching out to your agent? And is the process collaborative, or do you bring the client, or do you wait until you've explored a little on your own and then bring the client on?
Yeah, the first step would be to have a call and just to see what kind of deliverables and timeline that they have to see if it's realistic. After that, we would put a proposal together and then go through a negotiation process and have a contract finalized. I never continue with anything unless we have a contract finalized or something in writing to say that this is good to go. And then through after that, um, it also depends what company it is. Sometimes I would ask for a 50% deposit, sometimes I won't. It just depends if it's like a trusted client. And then after that, I would send a first round of sketches. I think the sketches round is important because just to see if like if I'm missing the ball completely and we won't waste each other's time. I do have a really highly collaborative process. So I would do sketches first, and then I would produce a first draft, and then I would typically have 2 to 3 revision rounds depending on what the client wants. And I mean, at the end of the day, I want the client to be happy with the work that I produce. So I always encourage them to be as honest as possible, even if they hate it, like just tell me, and then we can work something out together. But typically, that process has been super helpful because with each revision round, we get more specific into what they want. And I think it's also important to limit the amount of number of revisions that you have per
Mhm.
project. Like I usually stick with 2 to 3, and I don't think that you need much more for an illustration project. But if you don't give a limit, sometimes the client gets too carried away. I'm sure you know this. And then it's just like little things like make it pop or whatever. I'm sure you've heard that before. Like
Make it pop, make it bigger.
make it
Yeah.
bigger, make it 3 different colors. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I think just having those clear parameters in place has been a super helpful process, and I haven't ran into any issues with that.
Yeah, no, that's kind of interesting because I would think that most people's process, especially in terms of illustration, I don't do a lot of illustration. I do illustration with branding. So if it's part of your
Right.
brand and if it's part of your design language, yes, I do it. I love to draw. I use the iPad, but I don't specifically go for illustration projects. And in those cases, like I've done some commission projects for smaller people and smaller brands where the feedback can be tricky. So handling that pushback is also like a skill in itself where you're teaching them how these design decisions will actually help them instead of going with direction B or C. So do you ever make like more than one directions when you're presenting your sketches, or is it just here's what I think would work for you, here's a sketch and I'm going to work on revisions?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. That is tricky, but when a client asks me to do something and I don't agree with, I show it to them because I know that they're not going to like what they want. So then I always present an alternate option of like, hey, well, I do think that this is what you were asking for. Maybe if we tried this, I think it could take your idea to the next level. And 90% of the time, that does work. And so I think, like, if you're gonna disagree with a client, it's always good to present another option, but also do what they were asking because at the end of the day, they're paying you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hit the brief. That's
Yeah.
that's your go-to. Yeah. So has there ever been a time that you've had to say no to a big opportunity? And how did you
Yeah.
decide that it was a no?
This actually happened to me 2 weeks ago. I thought May was gonna be a super chill month, and then all of a sudden, I had, like, 5 projects come in, which is, again, great for me. But, I had a big company reach out, couple days ago, and even though I really wanted to make it work, the work that I would have produced would have been really bad, and that would affect my reputation down the line, so I just had to respectfully decline and hoping to keep that line of communication open in the future. But I know that I would have produced really bad work if I were to take on another project. So I guess just knowing your limits and just knowing when to walk away.
Yeah. Finding that work-life balance. Yeah. I struggle with that big time. So I know what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
It's hard with freelance because the sky's the limit and you could take on as much work as possible or take on as little work as you want. And I guess you never really know your limits until you push yourself and see what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in creative burnout and you're like, okay, so what's the next step? And you don't know where to go. I guess that's the creative burnout. But I feel like I am someone who thrives in chaos. So
Yeah.
I like the chaos almost. I want to put myself in it so I don't procrastinate. And it's also kind of a motivator for me personally. I don't know how that works for you, but
I
yeah.
agree. I like staying busy and I like having deadlines, and
Yeah.
I'm a very type A person, and I think that's
Same.
what yeah, I really struggled with that when I started freelancing because I'm so used to structure and like discipline
Mhm.
with from like my athlete background and stuff like that. So when things are so up in the air with freelance, it took me a while to adjust for sure.
So let's talk about more about your work and how you want it to impact people. So what do you hope people feel when they experience your work in various formats?
Like going back to our conversation earlier about niching down and stuff like that, I just want people to see that you can be good at many things. And I'm going to get into this more on my channel, but I don't think I've really shared how much sports and fitness is an integral part of my daily routine and how it fuels me creatively. And I think there can be a really interesting intersection with that. And I plan to go into that more. I hope people see how much sports has impacted my work, how much my personality is infused in my work, because I think the best personal brands are authentic. I hope they see a genuine person, honestly, because
Hmm.
I always try to show up as authentic as possible, and I just wanna be real. I wanna be real with my audience, real with my followers, and I also wanna share more of my struggles as well. I think I sometimes focus on just sharing the good, and that's not feasible or realistic, and I wanna be able to be more vulnerable, if you will. I think it, builds a connection with your audience, and what I've seen from really successful creators is their struggle has really resonated with a lot of people, and I think I should share more of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the way that you pick yourself up when you're down, not the fact that you're hiding that ever was a thing. That is a struggle
Right.
everyone goes through. And if you're hiding that, that means you are hiding something. So instead of hiding that, just be honest and upfront and be authentic in your voice. And I think that does wonders.
Yeah, and to your point, like, the series that I have of pitching myself on social media, like, I'm basically doing free work. I am doing free work, but if I didn't do that free work, I wouldn't be where I am today. I think if you can't be generous, like with money or whatever, I think being generous with your time really goes a long way. And again, being vulnerable, like you said, Googling something or just being like, I hope this brand picks me goes a really long way and gives somebody to root for in a way.
So has your definition of success changed since you started out? And what is it?
Oh God. um I think yeah, definitely. A year ago today, I didn't know where I wanted to be. I was so lost professionally and was really struggling with my confidence. And um, I am really proud of everything that I've done, of everything that I've accomplished, and I know that I'm gonna accomplish so much more this year. I think if I keep being authentic, keep being meaningful, and keep being unique, that's while paying my bills, that's enough success to me. And if I can impact other people positively, that's totally good with me.
Yeah. I know I said that was my one last question, but I have one more.
Yeah, for
Surprise.
sure.
If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something about pitching or creating, what would it be?
I would say to listen to your feelings. I think I like gaslighted myself for a really long time because, again, I didn't have confidence. So whenever I had the thoughts of freelancing, I would always shut it down and tell myself that it's a bad idea. But if you know in your heart that you want to do something, try to listen to that as much as possible and make a plan as soon as possible to take those next steps and just go for it. And I would just take the biggest risks possible. Like I was literally, what? This was a year ago today, or 2 years, 2.5 years ago. So I was 22 and I was like so stressed about like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? But I should have been like, I'm 22 and I get to figure out what I get to do with my life. And that's such a gift. Just try to embrace the chaos, like you said, more.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Fiorella, for being here on my podcast. I honestly had such a great time, and this has given me so much to think about.
Likewise.
And definitely, I was trying to find time this week to show up on social media and next week, but yeah, I'm definitely energized to create more.
I'm glad. Well, thank you so much for having me and letting me share. And it's always nice talking to you and talking to another creative. And yeah, just thank you so much for having me.
And that was my conversation with Fiorella Granda. I hope it left you energized and encouraged as it did me. A few of the things that I loved from this chat were that personal storytelling can open professional doors, and the fact and reminder that visibility is design work. If this resonated with you, share it with a fellow creative. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button to get the upcoming episodes for the Able Heads podcast. We talk all about building a business, creative process, and how to create good work in a noisy world. I'll see you on the next one, but until then, stay creative.